So if we look in the Bible, we have stories like David and Goliath, Daniel in the lion's den, Noah's Ark. And it appears that God or good people on his behalf do actually kill bad people in the Bible. But of course, God tells us that we should not kill anyone in the Ten Commandments. He says, do not murder. So how do we make sense of this?
Okay. This is a very deep question, and many people far more learned than myself have reflected on and wrestled with such questions as this. It's important for us Christians to discuss such issues and to realize that the Bible does not give trite or simplistic answers, which is a measure of the seriousness of the question. We have to read all of these stories in a larger context. We have to understand that they are part of a biblical narrative which starts in Genesis and ends in Revelation. We have to understand the culture of the day as well and try and understand how people thought back then and how they would see and understand God at that time, which might be different to how the New Testament writers would view God, or even how we would view God in our 21st century. And so when we ask this question, we need to reflect on it carefully so that we can begin to answer it. So we look at the suffering we see in our world and what are the causes and where does it start. And sadly, and the reality is, it often starts with us human beings. War, poverty, violence, it all starts often with human action. If we consider the phrase that if God is a God of love, then why does all this happen? We are making a statement about the character of God and ourselves in response to that character. God is love, and that's a biblical truth. The created order was brought about because of love. It was God's will to create something that was good, something which he could love, and which would love him in return. And that's an important point to remember, because love cannot be forced. Love is freely given. Love is freely received. Therefore, to love means there must be free will, the right to choose. And we were given that choice. And sadly, many people choose to go against what was God's will and purpose. And as a result, we end up with a lot of the violence we see today. And so those stories in the Bible that we often read, which seem very gruesome and very difficult to understand, are often as a result of people's rejection of God's will and purpose, which has led to violence and sadness and much death.